Hey guys, coming to you again today from my car. We're in 4K today, not 1440. Decided to bring a good one to you guys today. Today I want to talk about something that I just did today in my gym. It's rehab day, aka mobility day with a lot of my guys. When people talk about mobility, you usually look at the classics, stretching, doing active release therapy, massage therapy, cryo tube, Mark Pro, stim devices, Compex. Think about all those things when you think about rehab day mobility. Too often times when I'm looking at mobility now, I'm seeing it done the old school way, which is you hold a stretch for 30 seconds and you release it and then you move on to a different body part. Those of you who are in the fitness industry, or if you're watching this, you're obviously in the fitness industry, or at least interested in it, you know that static stretching does not correlate to any better range of motion over the long term, or even, and actually it has more negative effects on force production when we're talking about working out. Talk about force production with athletes. That's all about how fast can they produce force. But too often times I see coaches do a static stretch, hold something for 1.5 to 2 minutes before they go and do squats or running. The whole point of working out, like not the whole point, but when a muscle is working or it's acting, it is shortening. So why are you going to take a muscle that needs to shorten and make it longer than it was before you try and shorten it again? You kind of see where I'm going with there? Why are we going to lengthen something? We're just going to shorten it within the next 20 minutes. Does that make sense? When I go through mobility with my guys, backtrack a little bit. One of the more common stretches you'll see now was the band distraction made famous by Kelly Starrett. Great stuff by Kelly Starrett, Mobility WOD. But a lot of it is implemented incorrectly from what Kelly prescribes. Ever watch what Kelly does, Mobility WOD does? They never have you just sitting there holding something, holding a stretch. Okay? When they're doing a rollout or something, obviously you find an area and you move around with it. But there's always some type of contract, relax, PNF type of action going on when you're doing any type of these. You don't know what I'm talking about when I say PNF stretching. PNF means proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, which means you're going to try and send a certain signal to the muscle to try and get a response out of it. The way it works, the way Kelly or Mobility WOD describes it, is if you get into a hip flexor stretch, for example, you have a band distraction, he goes usually with a couch stretch, where you have your foot up onto a bench or on a wall if you have really good ankle mobility. And this is done in cycles. You push against the object, the wall, the bench, whatever you have against you, even a couch. Push against it as hard as you can for about 5 seconds to try and get the muscle to contract. From there, you relax, take all tension off the muscle, and allow yourself to kind of go deeper into the stretch. Without compromising joint angles and range of motion of a certain joint. What this does is that it uses an internal bug of the muscle that we can override to get it to naturally relax, but after contraction. Don't ask me how it works. I don't have my PhD in this stuff. Refer to Kelly Starrett Mobility WOD, any type of person like that, to describe it more in depth. But I can tell you from personal experience and from using it with clients, it freaking works. I do not do any more static stretching. I do all PNF style of stretching because it gets you moving. Your muscle is working while it's increasing its range of motion. So it's not just sitting there. You're not just cranking on a cold muscle with just throwing on a band on it, calling it mobility. All right. Another great way to incorporate some PNF stretching into your routine is if you have a Mark Pro Plus unit. I've made a couple of videos on this on my Instagram before, and on this YouTube page about it, for different muscles that are kind of hard to get to do through PNF style. We have to contract, relax into it. You can use the Mark Pro Plus unit on high, attach to the certain area that you want to try some PNF on, get into a nice stretch, crank it up to the point where you can handle. Everybody's tolerance is a little bit different. Newer people, you generally start off easier. More experienced people, you can go higher on the scale. There's some stretches where I can get up to a 9 now on the Mark Pro because I've gotten used to it, and some of my other clients have as well. And seen the exact same results with using the Mark Pro Plus unit than we were doing with the PNF stretching. It's not a replacement. It's not better than or worse than. It is just simply another option if you don't have a couch available, if you don't have the ability to do a PNF style of stretch due to the environment that you guys are in. So just a little tidbit there to help you guys out. And on the topic more of mobility, another part of mobility that we always incorporate before we do any kind of PNF stretching is a general rollout or a trigger point therapy, or trigger point kind of rollout with a baseball, a crossball, a double-sided Gemini from a mobility wad to try and get the muscle to relax. We put the muscle under enough tension underneath the ball, it eventually relaxes. But when you're doing this, whenever you're doing this mobility work, the whole point of it is to prep the body for movement. So if you're going to prep the body for movement, don't just sit on a ball and roll your body back and forth over it. Get that ball or get that mobility stick or get that barbell wherever you're going to try to mobilize to try and get ready, and move it through the ball. You'll find or barbell or whatever you're using. Move that joint, move that area around where the ball is. Don't just sit on there and crank that thing up for 5-10 minutes without moving it, because then you're just basically mashing loose muscle around. We want to have that muscle that we're working get to its end range of motion and put more tension on it while we're moving around on it to get that thing to relax a little bit more. So when we get into our next mobility, we have a band distraction with some PNF, it's gonna have a little bit more range of motion, so our body isn't, oh shit, I'm getting to this range of motion. It's, oh, I can get there now because I have released some tension within my muscle. You can do that, like I said, by using a baseball, softball, a lacrosse ball, a golf ball, the duo-sided Gemini or double-sided tennis ball to go for the spine and stuff, to do a general type of rollout. The third thing that I do with my mobility guys is that I implement a floss band. This is not as popular of a method yet. I say yet because it's probably the single greatest mobility tool that I have, to be completely honest, is a floss band. You can buy them from Elite FTS, you can buy them from mobilitywad.com, Kelly Starrett. Kelly Starrett really does a great job with all of his mobility stuff on there. There's a reason he's the mobility guy. There's a couple different ways I use the mobility bands, or the floss band, sorry. I do it for movement prep in both ways. The first way I do it is when I do it for the lower half. Every single time I have a client come in, they're doing a lower half workout, I have them grab a floss band. Find your kneecap, slide that band up right around your kneecap, right above it, all right? Maybe make a band of, maybe a width of band about that far, wrapping around your leg. The bands I think are around 3 to 4 feet long, so you get some good tension on there. You want it to be about a 7 out of 10 tension on that band when you're wrapping it, to kind of give you what a 7 feels like. It feels like, ooh, I have a band around my leg. It might pull a few leg hairs, but I can still wiggle my toes, feel my feet. I don't want it to be completely cutting off circulation. We're not doing blood flow restriction training here, all right? And what you'll do once you get that band settled in is that you'll go into a deep squat and hold anywhere from a minute to 2 minutes in that deep squat position. If you struggle to get into a deep squat, hold on to a pole in front of you to help keep an upright chest. We want to try and keep our mobility work as near to the actual movement we are preparing for when we are doing these drills, because why would we prepare it any other way? It doesn't really make sense. So after you hold that squat for the minute to 2 minutes, depending on how you feel, you will then do 10 bodyweight squats. The whole purpose of the flossing in the way that I'm describing it here is to take the muscle past its range of motion while we're moving it. We're not just sitting there cranking on it, stretching it when it's cold. In order for it, when we get to the bottom position of a squat, a lot of time we have some patellofemoral knee pain, it'll take a lot of that away because the tension has been released on the quad because we've taken it past that range of motion by putting the band down on it. It's kind of like having a rope attached at two ends and taking some slack off of, try to kind of pull up the slack and then taking it past where the slack is. It's going to stretch the rope out a little bit more so the rope can last a little bit longer. All right? Luckily, our muscles are more resilient than rope, so we don't have to worry about it frailing a rope would. That helps out with general range of motion. So if you struggle to get into a deep squat, it'll really help out with your ability to get there without compromising any other ankle position. The second way I use the floss band is for what Kelly Starrett terms as gapping. When you, to kind of give an example, when you press your finger down on your skin like this, press it down for a couple seconds and lift it up. What does the skin look like? The blood's gone away, right? It's pale. It's more pale than the rest of your skin. That's what tends to happen at our cartilage. When our joints are really tight, our muscles around the joint are really tight, they'll pull the joint together, keep it tight, which is not a bad thing. But when it gets to the point where it is compromising movement or causing discomfort, that is a red flag. So what we do with the band is that instead of doing it over a muscle, we actually put it over the joint, whether it be an ankle, a wrist, an elbow, a knee. It's hard to do at other bigger joints just because we can't get to it. There's too much there, too much muscle or tissue, soft tissue there to get through to the joint to really gap it. The elbow is the most common one that I do. What it does is it actually separates the joint slightly to the point where there can get some blood flow into that area so that it can kind of flush out and kind of bring some restoration to that area, because it may not have seen blood for a while. Obviously there's going to be some blood, but not to the amount that it needs. And after you get that under the nice little squeeze, you get some band distraction. If you're doing the elbow, you wrap your elbow up nice and tight. Same deal as the quad, about a 7 out of 10 tight, where you can still wiggle your fingers, but you're not going to lose the arm. And then you throw your hand inside of a band and pull, or have your kind of walk away from the band and have your arm pull on the band to kind of get a little bit of distraction, that joint, to get even more space in there, to kind of create a little bit of relaxation within that joint, to get some laxity within the joint. This is done for people who have joint problems where they are not hypermobile. You would not want to do this on a hypermobile athlete, because you're taking them, a hypermobile athlete, and making them more hypermobile. That is completely defeating the purpose. That person should be doing a completely different set of exercise, different set of mobility work. So do not do this on a very mobile athlete. Luckily, the elbow is not a super mobile joint in most people. It's usually stiff, so this applies to many people, including probably you since you're watching this. I hope a lot of these tips have helped you out today, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Like the page, share the page. Staying strong, guys. Talk to you later.